Welcome, I'm Tony Cordato, Property Lawyer. Today I have the privilege of having Felicity Heffernan, who's a mortgage broker of long standing, and we're going to talk about why a 2-bedroom home unit or townhouse is the best first home purchase or first investment purchase. So, hello Felicity.
Hi Tony, thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you. So let's start off. Why are we talking about 2-bedroom stuff?
Well, I think it's a good entry point now for young people to get into the market, particularly the Sydney market, but even if you go regional to Wollongong and Newcastle, all of a sudden those markets now have started to become a little bit unaffordable for people trying to get into the market. But units are affordable at the moment. And particularly, I think, 2-bedroom ones, you don't want to go too small to, say, 1-bedroom or studio. You start to get some problems there in terms of what you can borrow and whether it's acceptable security for the bank, particularly if the size of the unit gets down to about 50 or 55 square metres. You start to get run into some strife there. So 2 bedrooms are great.
So, point one, you have to have a home unit which has more than 50 square metres, maybe 55 square metres. Why? Because lenders may either refuse to lend against a home unit smaller than that, and
Correct.
They're called studios or small one-bedders, or you have to put in more deposit.
More deposit, yeah, just to, I guess, help alleviate the risk for the bank, so that, some of them are happy to lend on that. Others have just got a complete policy of flat out no.
So studios and one-bedders are cheaper for a reason, and that's because they're harder to sell.
Yeah, and harder to get lending on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you think about this, if you're a first home buyer and you go, oh gosh, that studio, that's really affordable, I'm going to get into the market, and then maybe I'll sell that later down the track. The problem is, if you've got trouble getting into the market, and you'll get trouble with your lender on that particular style of property, just know that when you go to get out, you're going to have just as much trouble.
Yeah.
If the lenders haven't even narrowed the policy further down the track, which is something you've got to be aware of.
And the other thing that appeals to me about 2-bedroom units is that, you can live in one bedroom and rent out the other.
Yeah.
So you can actually get an income
Yeah.
to help pay off the mortgage.
It's perfect, I think, yeah.
Or better still, you can rent out to a couple. Live in one bedroom, and I've had plenty of people live in the smaller bedroom and they rent out the larger one.
Yeah. And particularly young kids getting into the market where mum and dad are helping. Mum and dad might say, well, look, we're going to assist. We're going to perhaps go halves with you in this. And, listen, we're going to rent out the extra bedroom or keep it for ourselves when we come to visit.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot of that at the moment where parents are assisting and they're getting the rent on one bedroom.
One of the bedrooms. Yeah.
One of the bedrooms to assist for, helping the capital injection into that purchase.
So it's not just the bank of mum and dad, it's an investment by mum and dad.
Investment by mum and dad, yeah. Dictate it with some interesting terms, like mum and dad can stay.
A good reason why people like home units and townhouses is that you actually don't own very much. If it's a strata, all you own is the skin of paint on the wall and all the airspace in between. That's the external wall and all the airspace in between. You don't actually own the external bricks. You don't own the windows. You don't own the cement slab floor. You don't own the ceilings. You don't own the roof. You don't own the plumbing, external plumbing. You don't own anything. Who owns it? Well, all of you, it's the owners' corporation, all the owners equally own the building. And that's, of course, why you pay strata levies, because a major part of the strata levies is strata insurance, which covers the building against fire, flood, lightning, and all that kind of stuff. Mind you, it doesn't cover you against building subsidence. But what that means is internally, you do have a bit of a free hand to decorate, if you like. You can put in proper wooden flooring, with proper being acoustically sound flooring. You can repaint the wall, put in a new kitchen, put in a new bathroom. Of course, you need permission from the owners' corporation to do the structural stuff, the bathrooms, and a lot of things in the kitchens, but you can do it. Limited budget, and make the place completely new and fresh and livable.
And that's really cost effective. You've just got to be a little bit careful that you don't go drilling holes into walls. And we had an example of a fellow in the units where I was living, and there was some damp and mould problems, and his tenants were getting turned over pretty quickly. Anyway, he decided that he'd go and put some dehumidifiers in, and he just got in there early one morning, drill, put them all in, upset the owners' corporation. He could have, run into any number of wires or pipes or whatever, and that's why they require you to do it. So, so it was kind of a little bit, I guess he felt like that he'd apologise rather than ask for permission, but that upset the owners' corporation, no end.
Yeah, that's right. So, 2-bedroom units, easy to finance.
Yes.
Banks, depending who you are, might lend you 80%, might lend you 90%.
You didn't go as far as 95. 95. Particularly in your Sydney and your large regionals like Newcastle, Wollongong. So we're talking New South Wales here, but any capital city with large regional areas, up to 95%. But you've got some lenders' mortgage insurance costs there. It starts to get expensive.
That's above 80.
That's above 80, yes. Yeah, so that kicks in then.
And of course, it does vary on the type of building that you're buying into.
That's
you
true.
can have the low rise, which are townhouses, or walk up to 3 stories.
Yep.
They're the low rise. Then have the medium rise, about 8 stories.
About 8 stories, yep. And
then you can have the high rise, which is 14 up to 35
and above.
So, they're 3 different classes. Now, do lenders look at them differently?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So your low rise, look, you're pretty safe there. There's usually the development's relatively small, so your bank's not going to get too upset that they've got sort of too much exposure in that particular area. I know some lenders are very conservative with the medium rise. Once you go above, the 8 stories, you've got problems there. They'll have a policy where that kicks. That just stops there.
Above what, 80%?
Some of them even say no. I've got a couple of cautious lenders that say absolutely positively no, so they just won't do them at all. That's how cautious they are. Some will say no, you've got to kick in at least 20%. Others are fine with it. We can sort of do up to the 95, but we've actually got to get the address of the security property. Usually there's some valuation, or the valuers have got to have an input on it. And depending on the comments from the valuer will depend on what the lender will actually do. And then high rise, you've got to be particularly careful, because if one bank has too much exposure in that particular development, you don't know, but they can just say, no, that's it. We've got our maximum amount of units in that development.
When you say too much exposure, 25%.
25%,
Once they've loaned on 25% or a quarter of the units, they just stop, don't they?
They just stop, yeah. Yeah, so it's, it can be problematic. Look, if you're in a city, you see it a lot more. Obviously, I'm regional, I don't see it as much, but you'll just find the odd building. I think Green Square is a classic example here in Sydney. There's just, units
building after once they reach their limit, that's it.
That's right. And then you've sort of got to hunt around for a lender that will sort of
It hasn't reached their quota.
It hasn't. Yeah, exactly. Hasn't reached their quota. Exactly. Yeah.
Now you've got 10 points of advice here, haven't you?
Yeah,
Felicity.
Yeah, 10 points for
10 points for when you're looking at it.
When you're looking, purchasing an apartment. I mean, and I think the big one is, where is the property in regards to the car park? I mean, is there car parking for one? I think you've got to have car parking. If it's not for your car, it's got to be for your junk.
That's right. The surfboards.
Exactly.
The bikes and that kind of stuff.
It's exactly. You've got to have some good stories. So I kind of think that's a fairly important point. Yeah. Look, and then how many apartments are there? Which is what we were just sort of covering a minute ago. It's like you in a a multi-unit apartment, and are there other units sort of going up around it, and can that affect the value of what you buy? So it's all those things that when you go to do your due diligence about buying an apartment is, what's going on in the area and how many apartments are there.
Yeah.
A little bit further down.
Yeah, the ratio is very important.
Hugely
what
important.
You want is more owner-occupiers.
Absolutely.
Because they look after the building.
They do. Well, they have a tendency. That's a generalisation, but yeah. If it's more owner-occupied, then it's I think it's got a lot more love than it has if it's just completely rented out.
Yeah.
Because then you're in the lap of the gods, I think, with the tenants. And I think this one's an interesting one. I never thought about this until a buyer's agent friend pointed it out to me. But on her many tick list things checklists that she checks off is where are the rubbish dumps, and where are the trash bins kept, and classic example is got a beautiful apartment, it's got a beautiful outlook, and overlooks everything, and then where are the garbage bins? Right underneath the balcony.
The view's up here and the garbage bins are down
just there.
Okay, you don't look at the garbage bins, but you can smell them.
You can smell them if the wind's blowing the wrong way.
And also it's noisy.
Well, it is. It is noisy, and and you get the holiday period, Christmas, New Year, and that, and they're all flowing over. It gets hot.
Yeah.
You've got insects. It's just
not
good. So check out where the rubbish dumping is in the building. If it's over a certain height, has it got sprinklers?
Yes. 8 stories is the
sprinkler.
Above 8 stories, it has to be sprinkled everywhere.
Yeah.
Up to 8 stories, it has to be sprinkled in the common areas.
Right.
And that costs money every year.
Yeah.
You've got to get a sprinkler engineer person, fire safety engineer they're called, to certify it. And they find things that you need doing. Like, it's not uncommon to have a bill of $30,000 or $40,000
just to check out the sprinklers.
Yeah, to replace stuff that needs replacing and so on every year.
Yeah, and I guess at least if you're looking at a smaller development, those ones have got to have fire alarms, but again, they're subject to the fire safety inspector or whoever he is that comes out.
Up to 3 levels, they don't need sprinkler systems.
But they'll need fire alarms.
They need fire alarm.
Yeah.
And they need fire safety stuff like exit signs.
That's right.
And doors, which are fire safety doors.
Yeah.
Front doors.
And all that adds to the cost of the strata. You don't even think about that, but I guess once you start getting above the 8 stories and you have a sprinkler system and that, then it starts to get expensive.
It's very costly. It's more costly than the swimming pool.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. And another one is how many lifts has it got? I mean, it's great if it's got a lot of lifts, but you think about, if a place that's got 6 lifts, what's the cost of maintaining the lifts in that building?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love the Big Bang Theory, where they all live on the 4th floor, but the lift's been busted ever since they've lived there. Nobody's fixed it, probably because the Strata Corporation couldn't afford to fix it.
Well, there are some places around the world they have the high rises and they live on the first 3 floors or maybe 4th floor, because you can reach it by stairs and that's about it.
About it, but yeah, you wouldn't want to be on the 8th floor with no lift.
Well, you can't.
No. So my point number 6 is what amenities has it got, and that's and I'm talking in relation there to the strata. You mentioned a minute ago the swimming pool. What has it got? Does it have bathrooms? Lifts? All those sorts of things, because they're all very heavy on the cost of maintaining the property.
Yeah, and lesser so with gyms and gardens and things.
Well, that's true. That's true.
They're static. Well, gardens not static, it grows.
It grows, but still, it does need maintaining. So, but the more bits and bobs you've got in your apartment complex, I mean, you could say you live in this beautiful apartment and it does have the gym and the beautiful garden and the swimming pool and the 6 lifts, and if you own one of those, it might have been relatively affordable to get into, but on a maintenance side of things, paying your strata fees every quarter or every month, whatever you pay them.
Yeah, levies is what kills you. It'd be like $2,000 a month.
Be killing it. Yeah. Your mortgage.
$2,000 a quarter.
Yeah. Well, it may start to make your mortgage look very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't escape.
No. And so what else is? The next point is like, what else is happening in the area? And we did sort of touch on that a little bit before, but are there other buildings going up in and around the area that can affect your value?
That'll affect values, won't it?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It'll create more pressure on the public transport systems.
Well, yeah, your infrastructure and everything starts to get affected.
Roads.
Not to mention that, if you're in, stage 1 and there's, 25 stages or something like that, well, you've got that constant construction noise to deal with for the however many developments that they're looking at doing. So, but it's one of those things before you buy, what is it?
Yeah.
Buyer beware, caveat emptor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, preferably buy where there's not much development.
Exactly that.
And not much room for development.
Exactly, yeah. And another point here is what are the established and or new properties like the one that you're looking at selling for?
That's
so
a good point. What's a new 2-bedroom unit selling for compared with a 30-year-old one?
Yeah.
And obviously, the 30-year-old one will sell for less.
Oh, well, usually because the like everything in it is probably 30 years old, unless of course it's been renovated.
But it may not. It may be larger. It may have a better view.
That's exactly right. It could have. It just could be a better unit, even though it's older. It just could be a better unit, but it's always just one to look out for. I mean, the new one being built will have the really modern kitchen and all the modern touches. Yours, if you own an older one or buying an established one, will have usually the more dated one. But again, I don't know. My preference is that is to perhaps get something a little bit established that it's had a bit of a track record, and perhaps look at putting some money in to renovate it and bring it up to scratch.
Up the value, for improvement.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I mean, a kitchen. I mean, if you had state of the art, 25,000.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're actually so affordable to do these days.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, I've heard of people putting in $60,000 kitchens, but 25,000 these days will buy a beautiful kitchen. 10 buys a nice kitchen.
$800,000 home unit. I mean, Yeah, sense of proportion.
Exactly. $60,000 kitchen, probably an overkill. You don't need to import the marble from Italy.
Well, we don't have to put blue marble from Italy like one I saw.
Yeah, and look, my last point, number 10, is what's the demographic of people living in the building?
Basically, how do they cook?
How do they cook? The smell of curry can put people off, but I've got this client of mine. She's lived in this little unit in Parramatta 20 years, but over the years the units have been sold off, and it's now become known as New Delhi, and of course you can't get into the place without being knocked over by the smell of curry.
And she's not into tandoori chicken.
No, she's not. And she went to go and look at selling her apartment, and when she went to Google one of the apartments that had sold previously, there was a picture of one of these gigantic gas bottles, the barbecue ones. Yeah, just sitting on the kitchen bench inside. I mean, those things are supposed to be outside. Imagine that going kaboom.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the occupants of that unit weren't thinking, and I just thought, imagine having that being Googled. I mean, that's...
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're buying in, obviously you should go onto, realestate.com or domain.com and check out the photos of all the other units.
All the other units, that's right.
That building. And it's a great research. Not only the photos, you can see the prices.
Yeah. Well, I was just astounded that photo actually made it onto real estate, that the real estate agent let that one go through.
So there you have it. That's why they're good, easy, clean, neat.
And as long as you do some due diligence, I think they're fabulous buying.
You can't go past the 2-bedroom home unit or 2-bedroom townhouse.
No, not at all. Not definitely not within your in your cities and your large regionals. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the chat, Felicity.
Thanks,
We might
Tim.
have some searching to do. That's all for us for now. So
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.